Have you ever felt bound by invisible chains, held back by a force you can't quite understand? Imagine finding yourself in a self-imposed prison, not of iron bars and stone walls, but of fear. A prison where the most potent shackles are the ones we can't see, yet feel with overwhelming intensity. This was my reality, my daily struggle. Fear, a seemingly intangible emotion, had a tangible impact on my life. It was like a shadow, always lurking, always ready to envelop me at the slightest hint of vulnerability. It was a fear of rejection, a fear of abandonment, a fear of being vulnerable, and a fear rooted in trust issues. All these fears, like invisible chains, held me back, kept me from reaching for the stars, kept me from realizing my full potential. Each fear was a product of past traumas, each a painful reminder of a time when I was hurt, when I was let down, when I felt alone. The fear of rejection came from a time when I put my heart on the line and it was thrown back at me, unappreciated. The fear of abandonment was born from a time when I was left alone, when the ones I trusted vanished when I needed them the most. The fear of vulnerability stemmed from a time when I opened up, showed my true self, only to be ridiculed and judged. And the fear of trust, it was the product of countless disappointments, of promises broken and confidences betrayed. These past traumas, these deep-seated fears, paralyzed me. They had a vice-like grip on me, holding me back, preventing me from moving forward. They dictated my actions, my decisions, my life. I was a puppet, and fear was my puppeteer. Fear, the most debilitating emotion I ever felt, was my own worst enemy. It was an enemy that lived within me, an enemy I couldn't run away from. But it was also an enemy I knew I had to confront if I ever wanted to break free from these invisible chains. And so, my journey to confront and conquer my fears began. Imagine being in a self-imposed prison, where the walls are your own fears. A prison not built by bricks and mortar, but by the paralyzing thoughts of rejection, abandonment, and vulnerability. A prison where the key to escape lies within you, but the fear of using it keeps you shackled. We've all been there, haven't we? Battling the unseen enemy within ourselves, an enemy that whispers in our ears, "You can't do it. You're not good enough. You will fail." An enemy that makes us question our worth and capabilities. An enemy that, ironically, is a creation of our own minds. Yes, we're talking about fear, but here's the interesting part. Fear, as crippling as it may seem, is not the villain of our story. It's just a misguided protector trying to shield us from perceived harm. It is the manifestation of our past traumas, trying to prevent us from experiencing pain again. But in doing so, it builds around us a prison that restricts us from reaching our full potential, a prison that keeps us from experiencing the freedom and blessings we truly deserve. The battle with fear is a constant struggle, a tug-of-war between what we want to do and what we dare to do. It's like standing at the edge of a cliff, wanting to take the leap but being held back by the fear of falling. But what if we fall? What if we don't? What if we fly? It's this realization that triggers a spark within us, a spark that ignites the desire to break free from the chains of fear, a spark that fuels the decision to confront our fears, to challenge them, to question their authority over us. Because we've had enough. We are fed up with being prisoners in our own minds, fed up with being controlled by our own fears. And so we make a conscious choice. A choice to step out of our comfort zones, to face our fears head-on, to do the things we're afraid of, not because we are fearless, but because we are tired. Tired of being held back, tired of missing out on opportunities, tired of not living our lives to the fullest. I was desperate for change, tired of being controlled by my own fears, and so the journey towards freedom begins. A journey that is as challenging as it is liberating, as terrifying as it is exhilarating, but that's a story for another time. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, the wind whipping around you, the fall seeming infinite. Do you take the leap? It's a question that has haunted many of us, a metaphor for the great unknown that lies just beyond our comfort zones. Fear is a powerful, insidious force. It whispers in our ears, telling us to stay safe, to avoid risk, to stick to what we know. But what if we chose to listen to a different voice? What if we decided to confront our fears, to stare them down, to challenge them? That's the moment when transformation begins. It's not easy. It requires a conscious, deliberate effort. It requires bravery. Bravery is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. It's choosing to do the opposite of what fear dictates. It's choosing to take that leap off the cliff, not knowing what lies on the other side. Confronting fear often means letting go. letting go of toxic, codependent situations that have held us hostage for far too long. Letting go of the familiar, the comfortable, the known. Embracing a new normal, a normal that is unfamiliar and perhaps a little scary, but it's in this new normal where we find our greatest potential, our greatest growth. It's a scary process, no doubt about it, but sometimes we need to love ourselves enough to be desperate for change, to recognize that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result is absolute madness, that we're not just stuck in a rut, but we're actively re-traumatizing ourselves by clinging to our fears. So how do we change? We start by acknowledging our fears. We name them, we understand them, we accept them, and then we confront them. We take that leap off the cliff. We let go of the toxic, the familiar, the comfortable. We embrace the new, the unknown, the scary, because at the end of the day, it's not just about facing our fears. It's about reclaiming our freedom, our joy, our potential. It's about living a life that is not dictated by fear, but by courage, by hope, by love. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result was absolute madness. It was time to face my fears. What lies at the end of fear? Freedom. The journey to freedom is a path that often begins with an uphill climb, a struggle against the chains of fear that have held us captive. It's an odyssey that might seem intimidating, but the rewards are immeasurable. Imagine yourself standing at the foot of this monumental mountain, the peak shrouded in mystery. That's where fear resides, in the unknown. But the unknown isn't necessarily something to dread. It's an opportunity for growth, for discovery, for liberation. So how do we begin this journey? It starts with a single step, acknowledging our fears. This is no small feat. It requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to confront the ghosts of our past. But remember, these specters only have as much power as we give them. Next, we must learn to manage our fears. This doesn't mean we should ignore them or pretend they don't exist. It means learning to navigate through them, to use them as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. For some, this might involve seeking professional help such as therapy. For others, it might be through self-reflection or mindfulness techniques. Sometimes, the journey to freedom means completely eradicating the source of fear. This could mean letting go of toxic relationships, unhealthy habits, or self-destructive thought patterns. It might be scary to let go of what's familiar, but in doing so, we open ourselves up to new opportunities, new experiences, and a new normal. In the midst of this journey, we must also remember to heal. Healing from past traumas is an integral part of this process. It's about coming to terms with our past, forgiving ourselves and others, and letting go of the pain that has kept us in a self-imposed prison. As we embark on this journey, we also begin a journey towards self-love. This means treating ourselves with kindness, respect, and compassion. It means acknowledging our worth and refusing to settle for anything less than what we deserve. I began to love myself and understood that facing my fears was a crucial step in my journey towards freedom. Do you remember the invisible chains we spoke about? Imagine breaking them. In a world shaped by our perceptions, fear can seem like a towering beast, ready to devour us at the slightest provocation. But once we dare to confront it, to stare it down, we realize that the beast was, in fact, a shadow cast by our own insecurities and traumas, magnified by our reluctance to face them. Think of fear as a part of you, a part that's been hurt and is crying out for healing. It's not an enemy to be defeated, but a wounded friend desperately needing your attention. Once you understand this, you can begin the journey towards healing. Let me tell you this, the journey is not easy. It's paved with challenges and setbacks, but every step forward, every moment of resilience brings you closer to the freedom you've been yearning for. And trust me, it's worth it. The freedom that comes from confronting your fear, from breaking the chains of your self-imposed prison is exhilarating. It's like taking a breath after being underwater for too long. It's like seeing the world in color for the first time, and the blessings that follow are just as beautiful. Once the fog of fear lifts, you can see the opportunities that were always there waiting for you. You can see the love that was always there, waiting to be embraced. You can see the person you were always meant to be, waiting to be discovered. So, my friends, don't let fear rob you of your blessings. Don't let it keep you in a prison of your own making. Don't let it dictate the course of your life. Instead, dare to face it. Dare to heal. Dare to break free. Because in the end, it's not about the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. It's about acknowledging the fear, understanding it, and then moving past it. It's about reclaiming your power, your freedom, your life. In the end, the only thing to fear was fear itself, and with that realization, I broke free.